Leeds United's most recent set of accounts have just come out, and they reveal a hell of a lot about the club's financial position, at least at the end of the 24-25 season. After all, the accounts are always going to lag behind a little bit, but this is fairly incisive when it comes to learning a little bit about the promotion season, the money behind it, and establishing where we are financially right now as a club compared to where we were like 2 years ago, which was previously the most recent information that we had. We know that finances are ridiculously important in the world of football. If you've got money, you're going to find your way at the top. If you've not, you're going to slip down, get points deductions, all that kind of stuff. But importantly, knowing our current financial position also teaches us more about the ownership, and it tells us the general direction of the club. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into all of this. And to start with, I'm just going to clarify a couple of things. First of all, the fact that pre tax losses aren't the same as PSR losses. So, pre tax losses are the amount of money that you lose as a football club overall throughout all of your organisational stuff. That includes buying players, that includes wages, that includes managerial fees, everything. Agent costs as another one. But it doesn't include things, well, no, sorry, pre tax losses do include stadium infrastructure costs, they include academy costs, they include women's teams costs. PSR doesn't include those three things. It's got a bunch of different cut-offs that you don't need to include, which means that you can put money into your academy in order to help, like the youth game, which is why the Premier League allow you to do that. Similar for women's football, similar for stadium bits. Pure footballing PSR profit and loss doesn't come through in these accounts. So it would be entirely speculative to say that we have failed or succeeded according to PSR based on these accounts, but there's still a hell of a lot of stuff to learn. Like, for example, the losses will be bigger than they are accurately according to PSR because we spent a hell of a lot of money on the design work for the stadium and getting a good few academy players in. To set the scene, this is covering the season that we got promoted, so the sale of Cresswell is included in this, Somerville, Ruter, Kamara, I believe, not Archie Gray, he was sold before the deadline, but also the signing of the likes of Rodon and Tanaka and various other players along those lines. Solomon, another example, Aronson coming back into the fold, all are encompassed within this set period. And the reason that I specifically mention that is one of the main things behind the numbers in this data, and I will keep looking down because I've got a hell of a lot of notes on all of this. One of the main sort of underlying factors that we've got here is a massive increase in the amount that we spent on wages or money paid out to players, up 28% from the year before to £107.7 million. Now, important thing to note, this does include promotion bonuses, which is going to be a significant amount of that cost. So players such as Tanaka will have been signed with the understanding that if we go up, they will get a hell of a lot of cash for it, which completely earned, to be fair. The same will apply for players that had been here the season before, such as Joel Piru. Important to keep in mind that promotion bonuses will have played a big part of that, but our wage bill will have still gone up, in my opinion, compared to the season before anyway, because of the signing of players like Tanaka, because of getting Brendan Aronson back into the fold, because of getting Mana Solomon in, another fairly significant one. A hell of a lot of players joined in that season and played a very, very big role. Bogle, another one. Which ultimately means that wage spending was very, very high, but in order to succeed in any division, including the Championship, you need to spend a decent amount on wages. There's this sort of ongoing trend where people think that the amount that you spend on players in terms of fees is what defines the success as a football club, whereas there's a significantly stronger correlation between success and wage spending. And that's why I'm kind of glad to see that we're spending a decent sum on wages. The average wage for this period was £45,000 a week, but again, keep in mind that that includes promotion bonuses, so that will be an inflated sum. It did do the job, which is the sort of important thing. But we do also need to include the fact that the club did admittedly lose a fairly significant sum of money. So our losses were, let's have a quick look if I can find it. The pre tax loss was £49 million in this period of time, which is pretty damn big. 49.1, I believe, down from about 60, it fell by 19%, which is a significant chunk of change to lose. Nobody is denying this, however, there are some mitigating factors. First of all, Our number of player sales were smaller than they were previously. So the year before, we sold the likes of Sinistera and Adams and Archie Gray. This time round, it was Rotera, it was Somerville, it was Cresswell, it was Kamara, but Kamara didn't really go for much in the slightest. Significantly bigger sales came the season before, and you can tell that by the fact that the amount of money that we made on sales fell to 67.5 million quid. I don't believe that includes absolutely everything. There will be some longer term installment things to come over the coming years that will add to that sum, but in that year we made £67.5 million through sales. In addition to that, parachute payments were significantly lower, which means that the fact that we were able to record a lower loss is something of an achievement in itself. It shows that we made significantly more money in other areas to make up for the double shortcoming that we made there. Off the top of my head, the first season after a relegation, you get 55% of what you would have made in the Premier League as a parachute payment. That drops to 45 in the second season, which is something like another 10-15 million quid. So filling in that gap, plus the gap of not making quite as much in terms of sales, is fairly impressive to make losses of £10 million lower than the year before. Again, not great, but you have to take these things. And a lot of this comes from the fact that we made some fairly big revenue increases. So, some of the ways that we increased in our revenue, and we increased the revenue to a championship record sum of £137 million, which is ridiculously impressive in my opinion. But some of the main sources of those increases came from, let's have a quick look, ticket income. Rose 3%, which, yeah, ticket prices also rose, but that's sort of gonna have to happen because that's the way that football is nowadays. Commercial revenue was the most impressive one in my opinion, raising from £9.5 million to over 25 million quid, which is insane. It nearly trebled in a single year, and let's be honest, a significant sum of that will come from the Red Bull deal, which I don't believe that we had in the season prior. I think it was Boxed that sponsored us prior to that. And one of the things that is written down in the accounts, because I've gone through these as detailed as I can, is that the fact that we are a one-club city was noted as a structural advantage for us in these commercial regards. If you are a company that is in the Leeds metropolitan area, in all likelihood, if you're wanting to sponsor someone, you're going to look at Leeds unless you've not got the budget to do that, in which case it's maybe Bradford, maybe Huddersfield, but neither of those are going to be the attractive option. If you're a very, very big company that is looking to put some sponsorship money out there, it's going to go to Leeds United, which is the perfect position for us to find ourselves in. It fits in quite well with the sort of long-term elements that are noted as well. So the club note that they're aiming for sort of a global brand expansion, which, in my opinion, works perfectly well with the Red Bull sponsorship because they're quite good at having a very, very big global brand. There was also notes on the sort of general expansion of the stadium, which is going to be great for that ticket revenue. I believe our merchandise or ticketing revenue put us in the top half of the Premier League for that season when we were a championship side, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it also notes in the long-term elements that we put a lot of our attention into developing talent in the academy and also using, interestingly, proprietary analysis of data in recruitment, which means that we're looking for value, which means that we can sell players on for more turnover, which means we're more financially efficient in the long term. Basically, we're not going to end up in the spot that we ended up in under Radrizzani, and we're not going to end up in the spot that ended up putting us in League One, which is genuinely fantastic. All of this improvement in terms of revenue means that borrowing fell by 2%, which isn't the biggest fall, but it's still something. But interestingly, debt fell by 87%, which is insane. The amount of debt that the club had previously and the amount that it has now is sort of telling of the... Because whilst it might not be the most interesting of things to talk about, I'm fully aware of this. A lot of people have clicked off by now. And whilst it might not translate to interesting stuff on the pitch because that's not their job, from a management perspective, the 49ers are smashing it, in my opinion. The finances are incredibly efficient. There's a stadium expansion going on. In essence, these accounts show that the club is as healthy as it could possibly be whilst it was in the Championship. And I believe that with this as the precedent, there is nothing to say that we won't be similarly healthy in the Premier League right now. But yeah, that was covering the accounts. If you enjoyed the video, pop a like in it, comment if you fancy, subscribe if you're not yet. A lot of people aren't. It's one button, it's down there, it's massively appreciated. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo, friendos. Might do a bit more of an analysis and live stream tomorrow. I've not decided yet. We'll see. Ta-ra.